We had a few guys ask me about kind of how my modding process goes. I use Zmodeler. I'm not recommending Zmodeler. I do recommend Blender. It is free. It's more powerful. Zmodeler is what I know at this point, so it's what I'm going to use at this time. So if you do use Zmodeler, this I guess will help you, but I don't recommend it. I'm not going to go into extracting the base or anything like that, any of the normal stuff that other videos cover for how to um, open everything up. So I'm in my mod here. I want to do some work on the tanker pup trailer. SCS recently added the food tankers, which have some cool new hose holders that I want to use, nice models. So I'm going to do that, kind of go through my process on how I would do that. Again, so this assumes you already know how to kind of import stuff. In this case, there is a custom scene state. Kind of this controls the variants for this trailer. It has just one. I don't know why they bothered to do that on a lot of their trailers, but they did. So this is based off the SCS trailer. So I just kept it anyways. So you've got your 4 views here. I recommend the perspective view over the 3D view for this part. Excuse me. You can see the white part here. This is the shadow kind of it's what helps project the shadow in the game. It doesn't actually show up. You can tell it's kind of modeled after the original lines of the trailer. It's not a big deal that's a little different. In this case, it's just this first thing here under Viz. To turn that off and kind of get it out of the way. And I want to get rid of this thing as well. This says, when I hover over it, says Viz 03, so I can just click Viz 03 and that disappears. Alright, so we got that gone. Might see what else we can get out of the way here. Probably keep the flammable signs, the placards. I'll get rid of the body just to kind of get it out of the way. These mud flaps. Hopefully the fenders are in here somewhere. I could, like I already said, I could hover over them and it would tell me what they are. BO7. Okay. So you kind of got these different options up here for how to manipulate things. So for selection, I use quad R. And then you want to select move as well, so you can move things, so you can drag like that. I'm going to hit undo. By default for me, I have 2 side buttons on my mouse. The back button is undo and the forward button is redo. So I use that a lot. Otherwise you have to come up here and hit these. Control Z isn't a default key mapping, so keep that in mind. Remember, we're looking at the front of the trailer in this view here. So this view here versus the back. So we kind of got to keep that in mind with what we're going to do. So I'm going to select, and I use right clicking for selecting most of the time. You can use left clicking, but if you're on something like that, you see how it moves it accidentally. So left clicking doesn't do that. And when you pass over a point on an object, I guess an edge or a vertex is it's called probably, is when it'll actually select it. So if I don't actually go over one of those points, nothing happens. But as soon as I go over a point, it selects it. And how Zmodeler works, at least, I don't know if Blender is like this. When you select something, these objects are all grouped together, like all these things, because they're all the same material. And one way you can check on that, so normally this is closed. You hit this here at polygon to open it, and you'll see a material here. And you want to see one material. If it says multiple materials, you have multiple things selected. And that could be a problem depending on what you're doing. So see how I have this selected now? To deselect it, Shift D. That's like a very important key combo in Zmod to unselect things. And I'm still in object mode here. So now once I have it selected, I'm going to select edge, actually in this case vertex. Then I'm just going to click off the object, and now it's giving me a vertex view. With vertex, you can delete these. So I'm just going to select kind of what I'm doing here. I want to get rid of these original pipes, pipe holders. And this is a problem with Zmod. See, I'm trying to click on things and it's nothing's happening. So I'm going to bring up something else and come back to it, and then it works. I don't know why that it happens quite a bit in Zmod, so it's just something I've learned to deal with. But yeah, another reason I don't really recommend Zmod. Okay, so now we got that. So now to get out of this, we need to come back to Object and Shift D again to deselect. I don't want to export, I want to import. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to get these here. This is from the food tank, so it's under food tank, accessory, rear body. It's got two different things. I'm going to use hose 2 because I want 2 hoses for that spot. And you can see it brings them in here, and they're in a different kind of orientation than we need right now. So I'm going to select them here, select that object. I'm going to collapse this while we're at it. And you can see that it's now here under a totally different thing. It's not, it's under its own, I'm not sure what they call this, but it's under its own like hierarchy here at the moment. We'll change that to be under the trailer itself so it shows up in the game, otherwise it will not. And this is pretty simple. You just hit rotate, and in this case I need 90. Don't know what's going on with my throat today. Okay, so we've got our different views here. I'm going to move this up kind of where we want it. And what I'm working with here is, this is basically the truck that I have modeled my setup off of, the Superior Tank Lines truck and trailer fuel tankers that we see here in the Northwest. So you see these here are turned almost 90 degrees, so these little doors clear each other when they're stacked on top like that. So that's what I'm going to be going for. So I'm going to delete these supports here. So I've in object mode now. I need to go to vertex. I'm just going to select all these carefully. Okay, those are gone now. Back to object so I can deselect this. Now, these have these little U-bolt clamps here that I want to keep. So how I'm going to go about doing that is in this top view here. So if we hit these squares here, it takes the view you selected and just makes it pretty big. Also, if you want to select an object, notice how if I scroll to the right, if I drag to the right from left to right, it doesn't select it unless I go over the entire object. When you go from right to left, if it covers any part of the object, it will select it. So that's another little trick. So I'm going to select, oh wait, got to select the object again. I'm going to go to polygons this time. So these are those U-bolt clamps. So this is another thing here. If you use right click when you select these, and I go to the next one, notice how it deselected that and only selects here. So you want to use right click when you drag these instead of left click. And if you want to deselect something, hold control as you left click and it will deselect whatever you've highlighted. So now we've selected those. And what I'm going to do is called this section here under modify. We want to detach the polygons from the object. So this will make these into a new object. So we'll click on that and you see it's taken us back to object mode. So now we have a new part here that it copied. So delete that. You can see these lines on here. This is from the AO bake in the texture. So this can be a problem when you're manipulating things that have an AO bake. When you stretch them out and things like that, the shadows are permanent on the texture and they will move. So that's something you got to watch out for. Let's see here. Okay, so we've deselected that to get it out of our way. I'm not sure what this other thing is here. Okay, this is the shadow. This part here that's inside. So we'll get that out of the way for now. We don't need that. Okay, so we've selected this. I'm going to select edge. Edge works the same way as vertex. It's the same points to manipulate. I'm not sure why they're different things exactly, but with vertex it allows you to delete things, with edge it doesn't. So I'm not sure why that is, but you can also manipulate these things in polygon mode. There's kind of more points to deal with, and edge is typically what you use. So I'm going to turn these, let's say 85 degrees. Note when you first type something in here, there's always a 0 after it, so you gotta type it in and then delete that 0, because that can screw you up. Notice how it's shot way over here because it pivots. I'm not sure. That's one thing I've never quite been able to understand about Zmod. Go back to. I'm gonna right click and hit center to object on the axis, and we'll see if that helps us with that pivoting problem. I'm gonna just rotate the whole object. There's no reason not to. Hell, think I'm gonna rotate. No, those run on the opposite side that I need them to, the U-bolts, so I'll leave those off. Okay, here we are, so we got that selected. Rotate. And I didn't like 85 degrees, that looked like too much, so I'm gonna try 80. That looks pretty similar to this guy here. Alright. That goes off the right side like that, so we'll drag these over here. Kind of get a view of what's going on. Actually, the more that I look at it, that's not right. It should actually be over. Oh, that's interesting. So these caps on this end are at a different angle than this end. Okay. Well, duly noted. I'm going to keep rotating these then, because this is the end that matters. So you see I can also just click and drag for the rotate instead of clicking once and typing in a value. Hit escape to close that little dialog thing. So that's roughly about right. I've actually got it sitting ahead of the taillights there on the real one. And when you want to drag something and you want to move it in just a straight line, hold Control, and it will move in a straight line on the plane it was on. Yeah. I'm going to line up this part of the round body here with the back side of this placard, because that's how I had them mounted. So drag like that. And you can also restrict your axis of movement by deselecting the axes up here if you want. I find most of the time using Control is better. Okay, so now this is all one object, so I can't just drag this and move this separately, so I got to go to Edge. I'm going to select that guy, and there. Now I'm going to move him like that. Okay, that looks not too horrible. And then I'm going to stretch these out to be the whole length of the tank. I'm going to drag the middle here to be roughly in the middle. And while we're at it, we'll just turn some of this stuff back on. Just kind of see what we're dealing with here. Cool, I'm not too unhappy with that. See, we've still got the old one over here. Okay, so now we gotta deal with the U-bolts. Turn those back on. Now these need to rotate the opposite direction because we need the ends of these to be inside here where they would be theoretically mounted. Oh, didn't mean to select both of those. Okay. Damn it. Okay, so it did that thing to me again. I'm gonna go here, come back. I'm gonna undo and I'm just gonna click. Again, I don't know why Zmod does this, but one thing that's nice when it does have the 0 there and you want to do something that ends in 0, like your standard 90 to 90, 180, 270, just type in the first one or two numbers that you need and then the 0 is there for you. Okay, 90 is not what we wanted. We wanted 270. Okay, and then I put them all the way down there. So move them up here. Make sure these are selected. Come on. Okay. I'll line up the top one. Now the bottom's off because we've changed the relationship of the tubes. I go to edge. Just highlight that one. I can drag it up there. Okay. So you can see these shadows here. These are where I want to get these placed. So now I'm dragging them like this. And by the way, to move your view, I hold Alt and then just click and drag in the 3D view or the perspective view. And then holding the center, your center wheel and dragging just drags the whole view. So that's kind of how you move around. That one looks pretty good over the shadows. This one back here does not. Remember, we stretched this out, so it stretched the texture out. That looks moderately decent. So we've got those tubes on that side. I've just kind of let them run into these tank supports. I don't know what you want to call them. Makes it look like they're kind of integrated into those, I guess. So now we go to Object, and then we can deselect that and just kind of take a look at it. I think that does look better. We can try it out in the game real quick. So what I'm going to do, okay, so we still got these parts here. I'm going to move these, I'll move the shadows up. So I'm going to select that object and again, go to Edge so I can manipulate these parts separately. And I'll just kind of stack them like that. These shadow things don't have to be exact. And then I'll select this end and get our full length there. So I'm going to take all three of these parts, so you can just click one and then hold shift and click the bottom one and it selects all of them. And I'm just going to move them up here into Viz. So this now makes it part of the tank, and then you can just right click here. Excuse me, it won't let you unless you're in object mode. So we go back to object. These are all things that take you a while to learn when you're just kind of flying blind. So now that we're back in object mode, we can select this hierarchy thing or group or whatever and just hit delete because it does nothing anymore. So we've got those hoses on there. That shadow's a little long. Guess I can fix that real quick here. See, I went in there and carefully selected the part that's just that. Edge. Slide it back. Okay. So I'm at this point I'm ready to export it. There's an extra collision up here. Haven't gotten into collisions yet. This is actually a little experiment I was doing to figure out how to actually make them from scratch, because so far I've only copied them and moved them from other parts of models. So that was just a test to see if I can make one. So I got that fixed. Turn the collisions off here. I'm going to export, and this is another thing. If you're exporting and you want to export something with a different name, you have to change the name right here. So say if I wanted this to be tank pump 28 or whatever to represent 28 feet, when I save it, you have to change the name here, because if you try and export a different name than what you have here, it will not work. It will output a file that's basically zero and corrupt and won't do anything. So I'm going to select the proper one, hit export. Yes, I want to replace it. I'm going to go to my mod here, where I've already been working. Drag those in. We will fire up ATS. I've already been running this truck. And take a look and see how it looks. It is going to have an AO bake like for the shadows around the whole tube, so when I rotate it to be the part that's facing out now, which would normally be kind of occluded with shadows, you know, it might not look that great, so we'll just kind of see what it looks like. I'm not, I mean, you can tell this side is probably darker than it should be. Now this is something I could probably go in and change the map, the UV map, to kind of rotate that around to get the bright side facing out. I am clipping through the fender there, so I'll probably just extend that just slightly past the edge of the fender. But I think that already looks a lot better than these ugly just round tube things. So let's see if I can fumble my way through changing the UV map. Go back here to these parts, delete the, or turn off the things I don't need there. Okay. Edit UV, I want to keep the old mapping. So each one of these is like the segment of tube. And this is the texture it's using apparently. So I'm wondering if I can take these That's not right. Okay. Yeah, so I kind of want to drag this part up. Kind of go back. Yeah, this stuff can be kind of complicated to figure out. See, when I drag that up there, it does get brighter. Might not be the best way to do it. But I think that does look better. So I'm going to see if I can take that. All right, we'll call that good. Go back to our top view here. I did want to extend the front of that. Now, of course, when I did that, it changed where these shadows are, so I gotta go back and move the U-bolts again. Okay, make sure only that's selected. Okay, since I didn't move it, this tube in the middle, these shadows looks like they stayed in the same place. Yeah, so it's just kind of how I go through and mod things. It's probably not the most efficient or fastest way to do anything, but it's what I know, so here we are. Go back and export this again. Tank pup. I'm going to drop that into my mod. All right. I do kind of like that better. It does look like they've kind of retained a darker texture on the bottom. To make it look like they're a little bit shaded down there. So overall, I think I'm happy with that result. I'll turn the truck around so this side is in the sunlight and take a look. Oh, come on, dude. Jesus. All the way through the intersection and he stops because the light turns freaking red. Doesn't make any sense. Overall, I think when you compare it to the holders that are on the truck versus these, I'm quite a bit happier with that result. So I will keep fiddling with these and get these, get the other one on the other side of the trailer and then do it for the truck as well. Also, these tubes that run across the truck are the same thing. They'll have to be swapped out. That should be pretty easy because I can use them in their existing orientation and then shorten them up a little and be good to go. So I think that's going to cover it kind of for this modding video. So thanks for watching.